Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is 4th of February, Sunday, so I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Now it's 10 past 1, middle of the day by Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for the day, in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. There are quite a few very significant developments and the news that I'd like to share with you for this moment, but before I start, let me remind you, if I may, that today evening about 9 o'clock Moscow time, I will have a traditional Sunday live stream on my main YouTube channel, and I hope you will find time to join the conversation, join the stream. I will summarize previous week, I will share some additional news that will be reported by Russian media, and simultaneously we can exchange opinions just about any topic that we find interesting, as we always do. So hopefully I will see you during that live stream. And then that's been said, let's talk about news now. And first of all, short summary of the situation on Ukrainian battlefield. According to reports that I see on Russian media, on Russian military channels, there was no crucial changes on any of the sectors of the front line. Russian side is holding initiative and increasing pressure gradually all along the line of contact. But yet again, we are talking about some sectoral changes, nothing in a general scale. Although, of course, we still have main hotspots on each of the sectors when it comes to Carson direction. For example, it's of course Crimea area, where Ukrainian forces are still trying to hold on to their small, absolutely irrelevant foothold, for which Kiev regime sacrificed more than 2 brigades in last 2-3 months. In Zaporozhye sector, main hotspot is of course Orekhov bridgehead, and Rabotina settlement, which is still under control of Ukrainian forces, although despite some predictions that Russian forces may establish control over the Rabotina this week, it did not happen, and I don't think it's really that important, because I don't think Russian forces are in a situation to rush any developments at all, because special military operation in its attrition stage, which means that currently main task is not about gaining control over the more territories. Main task is to deplete as much as possible military capabilities of Kiev regime, to demilitarize Kiev regime. Well, this map is definitely not working correctly, but well, as I said, currently, as long as the special military operation in stage of attrition, there is no need, no necessity to conduct large-scale offensive operations and to try to establish control over the some settlements, risking lives. Absolutely not. Increase pressure, increase airstrikes, increase artillery strikes and long-range strikes, depleting units of Ukrainian armed forces on the line of contact. Then Kiev regime is forced to send more reinforcements in very same direction, and increased concentration of Ukrainian units allows Russian forces to yet again repeat process, and by long-range strikes minimize those battle capabilities of those units also, and this continues as long as Ukrainian armed forces will begin to collapse under this pressure. And at some point, we will see that Ukrainian defense lines will begin to crack, not just in certain areas, as we see quite regularly, but all along the front line. And that's time when we will see Russian large-scale offensive operations. That's time when Russian special military operation will change its stage from attrition to decisive actions. And I guess saying so, I'm answering to some questions that I see quite regularly in the comment sections: why Russian forces are not conducting decisive actions, where is the winter offensive, and so on. Dear friends, I did try to explain previously quite a few times, and well, I will repeat, if I may, that once Ukraine will be liberated from Ukrainian neo-Nazi mass murderers, vast majority of Ukraine, with the exception of western regions of Ukraine, which will be controlled by NATO after full-scale disintegration of Ukraine. But once Russian side will liberate majority of its historical territories, let's say, from neo-Nazis, everything that was destroyed during this war against Russia, waged by ruling class of the West, have to be rebuilt by whom? By Russia and by Russian taxpayers, isn't it? And therefore, it does make all the sense in this world for Russian side to use current line of defense with some minor changes, depends on operational situation on this sector or that sector, but to use current line of contact to deplete battle capabilities of Kiev regime, to force Ukrainian armed forces to collapse by gradual increase of pressure, and only then began large-scale decisive offensive operations, because in that case they will be possible to minimize casualties and it will be possible to minimize damage that is done to infrastructure on the ground, because all of you have seen what is happening with the settlements, villages or small towns that are on line of contact, like Bakhmut, for example, or like Marinka. Settlements are almost completely destroyed. And to rebuild everything that was damaged and destroyed will take billions and billions, isn't it? Billions of dollars, tens of billions of dollars, and maybe decades. So imagine what will happen to Kharkov, for example, if Russian side will begin its offensive operation in direction of Kharkov right now. City of 2 million, if I'm not mistaken, more than 1 million for sure, will be totally devastated. Can you imagine level of casualties in that case and level of damage? And how long it will take to rebuild all that? So therefore, as I said, there is no need to rush any developments on the front line for Russian side. By gradually increasing pressure on Kiev regime's forces, I'm quite sure after some time, it may not happen in a month, in 2, in 5 months, but at some point, defense lines of Ukrainian forces will begin to collapse in general, all the way on all the front line, and then probably we will see Russian large-scale offensive operations. But as I said, currently, in some areas, even this little increasing pressure is enough to for some Ukrainian defense lines to collapse in some areas, like time to time it happens in Avdiivka direction. And recently, for example, we did see that Russian armed forces gained some control over some additional territories in the northern side of this city, and they are closing into central part. And I would not be surprised at all if in upcoming week or two, Ukrainian garrison in Avdiivka will be cut in half on the southern eastern part here and the northern western part, and then neutralize, then cut even on the smaller pockets and neutralize one by one. But yet again, if I was in general staff, I will definitely recommend the commanders on the ground there in Avdiivka to slow down a little bit, to slow down, increase pressure, increase artillery strikes, missile strikes, drone strikes, but maintain more or less current line of contact, because in that case, to replace casualties, Kiev regime will be forced to send additional brigade, 1 or 2 or 3, and those brigades can be also neutralized in this area. So it does make sense to hold on offensives a little bit, increase pressure, but without huge changes on line of contact, so that these areas, these hotspots like Avdiivka, like flanks of Bakhmut, Orehov bridgehead, for example, or left bank of the Dnieper River, for that matter, can be used little longer as a trap, as a magnet for additional Ukrainian brigades. And then once one brigade will be neutralized, 10th, 20th, at some point, of course, Kiev regime will finally lose its battle capability enough that defense lines of Ukrainian armed forces will begin to collapse, because there will be no force left to be sent for reinforcement. And that's the time when Russian armed forces have to begin large-scale offensive operations. That's my reading of the situation anyway. And I did try to explain this quite a few times before, but I still see comments that, why Russian side are not offensive here or there, because it's not about that right now. It's about depleting battle capabilities of Kyiv regime. Okay, that's been said. Of course, if you are interested in more detailed analysis of these sectoral skirmishes on the line of contact, I recommend military channels for that. They are providing great volume of information about that minor changes on the front. I will continue with some other news, and RIA Novosti's report about yet another war crime that was committed by Kyiv regime, another atrocious act yesterday. In the Lisichansk bakery was targeted by Kyiv regime, and yesterday was Saturday, by the way, and bakery was full with the people, with civilians, streets around. And as a result of these strikes, 28 civilians were killed, among them one child. And according to some reports that I see, a few dozen of people may still be under the rubble of this destroyed complex, and emergency services are doing as much as they can to remove this rubble and save as many lives as possible. During this strike, HIMARS multi-launch rocket system was used by Kyiv regime, and as we all know, HIMARS is sent to Ukraine by US. I believe Russian military police, Russian investigative committee, FSB, they are conducting investigations on each of these type of case when intentionally was targeted civilians by Kyiv regime, and I believe at some point in the future everyone who was involved in these war crimes will be punished, no matter where they're gonna try to hide on this planet. They will be hunted down and punished. That's how it's supposed to be, and that's how it's gonna be. RT is reporting, and by the way, unfortunately, this is not the first and not the last time when Kyiv regime is using its Western equipment to conduct strikes deep inside Russian territory and to target civilians, intentionally target civilians. We can clearly see that Kyiv regime is shifting its attention towards killing more and more civilians, and in the last 2 months it's become too obvious for everybody, I guess. But unfortunately, of course, Western ruling class and Western so-called elites don't really care about it. I don't think you hear anything about this atrocious act of Kyiv regime in Western media. Most likely you didn't. Or any other war crime that was committed by Kyiv regime. Next report is from RT, and well, yet another high-ranking official of EU and NATO member state is threatening its own citizens with war with Russia. This time we are talking about Romania. So Romanian Chief of Defense Staff General Georgita Vlad has called for ordinary citizens to be trained for a war with Russia, arguing that such a conflict could break out in the immediate future. Multiple European politicians and generals have issued similar statements in recent weeks, which is absolutely correct, and I did report quite a number of times about this trend that is happening right now in the collective West, when high-ranking officials, military officials, politicians, bureaucrats are threatening their own citizens with war with Russia. Some says, like this Georgita, that war may start in immediate future. Some are more conservative and are saying that war may start with Russia in 3 years' time. Some say 5 years, some say 20 years. But But in general, I mean, you can clearly see this pattern that Western ruling class most likely issued order to their puppets in governments and militaries of these NATO member states to conduct this media operation to threaten society. And in one hand, we can understand what is going on. If they will threaten, scare hell out of majority of the citizens in NATO member states, of course, it will be much easier for ruling class to manipulate with this scared society and do whatever they want with not just taxpayers' money, but also with taxpayers themselves, with people. But in other hand, also issue that I see is that these statements from high-ranking officials in the West are not challenged by nobody, almost nobody, especially from media. And no one is asking, for example, when these high-ranking officials are talking about war with Russia, which is a nuclear superpower, by the way, and has more nukes than any other country in this world, including US. No one is asking questions when you are calling to get prepared for a war with Russia, and when you're constantly escalating with Russia. Why would you don't tell us who should we prepare for nuclear war? And if there is anything that can save if you are, for example, in an epicenter of nuclear strike. It's a legit question, isn't it? Because everyone should understand that war between Russia and NATO would not be with conventional weapons only. It will be nuclear war, which means end of this world as we know it. But for whatever reason, no one is challenging these Western high-ranking officials, and no one is demanding de-escalation. I mean, if you think that war is coming, then de-escalate. De-escalate because no one gonna survive. Why you are still escalating? Why you are still sending more money and more weapons instead of doing the opposite, to pushing for peace talks? Yet again, man, there is no independent media no more in the West. There is almost no independent politicians in the West, and all the journalists that we respect, Western journalists that we respect, all of them, journalists, professional journalists or citizen journalists, all of them are working now in independent media in the internet, isn't it? No newspaper, no radio, no TV station in the West will allow them to share their opinion with public and to challenge this craziness of the Western ruling class, which is scary, by the way, if you think about it. It's definitely scary. Anyway, let's continue. Lentarus report, by the way, about this topic that is circulating in the internet, that UK proposed to other NATO member states to send military contingent into Ukraine, and well, many channels did report about it. In Russia, media did pay also attention to this topic, and well, me personally, I find this information like fake news, because I mean, maybe Sunak is not really genius of our time and his cabinet members, but in military of the United Kingdom, I want to believe that there are some sane generals, sane commanders that will tell those politicians to really shut up and don't even think about sending regular forces of United Kingdom into Ukraine to conduct military operations against Russia. And by the way, in these reports that were circulating on internet, there was information not just about sending militaries into Ukraine, but also about targeting Russian territory, about targeting Russian industrial complex. So it's a full-scale war, really. It's again full-scale war, and well, I wanted to comment on this topic because most likely you hear information about it, but I think this is all fake news, by the way. I don't know where this topic started, that UK is proposing to send their militaries and basically to wage open war against Russia. But well, I want to believe that at least in militaries of the NATO member states, there are some adequate people that can explain to their politicians that war with Russia will mean annihilation of humanity, annihilation of modern world as we know it. And they will prevent this level of escalation with Russia. Anyway, let's continue. And RIA Novosti's report that President of Poland, by the way, did made quite interesting statements during an interview with the channel Zero, that's Polish channel, I guess. And well, Andrzej Duda, President of Poland, did say that Crimea has immense importance, historical and cultural and religious importance for Russia. And Crimea was a part of Russia for a very long time. And basically, he did not say that Crimea is, he did not recognize Crimea as a part of Russia right now, because he can't. But he did argue that it will be very difficult for Kyiv regime to regain control over the Crimea. Interesting change in the tune. Interesting change in the tune, because by speaking about history of Crimea and historical roots, historical connection of Crimea to Russia, Russian culture, of course, he also laid down the ground for Poland to regain control over their historical Polish territories in the western Ukraine. That's why he spoke about this topic. That's the only reason. At least that's how I understand this situation. And yet again, if you remember, just recently Putin did said that in Poland, the high-ranking officials or elites, they're sleeping and dreaming how to regain control over the former Polish territories that since Second World War become part of Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic in USSR, and Putin basically green-lighted Warsaw to regain control over its former territories. Although he also noted in that statement that well, simultaneously Russia will not give its own historical territory to nobody. And since then, I have just one question. Putin meant Russian territories, historical Russian territories from Kharkov to Odessa or Kiev also. I think he meant Kiev also, but only time will tell. But anyway, Ukrainian neo-Nazis not gonna be happy with this statement of Polish president, that's for sure. And well, then we have a report from TASS news agency that head of United Kingdom thinks that time is working for the West, and therefore they should increase further support for the Kyiv regime and be more optimistic and minimize. He's calling basically high-ranking officials in the West and media simultaneously to not be skeptical about current war that West is waging against Russia. And he is so much delusional that he thinks that time is really playing for the West. If he was adequate, he will realize that longer this conflict will continue, high will be the risk that by intention or by some human error, direct confrontation may erupt between Russia and the West, NATO, and that will be end for everybody. That will be end for everybody. So time is definitely not working for the West. But yet again, man, what you expect from David Cameron? I mean, did he read even single book in his life? I don't think so. I mean, total moron, man. That's what he is. And RT's report that Tucker Carlson is in Moscow. Most likely, many of you already know about it. He was spotted in Bolshoi Theater in Moscow. He was watching some spectacle, Spartacus, and well, of course, he visited Russia not just to enjoy Bolshoi and spectacle there, or Russian culture and history. He is here for business, and of course, most likely, he will have an interview with President of Russia, Vladimir Putin. He wanted to do interview with Putin when he was working in Fox News, but he could not. And if I remember correctly, he received some from secret services of US. He received some messages not to do interview with the Putin. I don't know what changed, by the way. I don't know what has changed, but Tucker Carlson is now free. He is working on his own media project, and well, most likely in upcoming days we will hear about his interview with Putin. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting to see what Western journalist, one of the most famous Western journalists, has to ask Russian president. Probably, of course, they will talk about Ukraine and how and when Ukrainian crisis will end, and I can guess what will Putin answer to that. Probably they will talk about possible relationships, possible future of relationships, let's say this way, between Russia and the US if Trump will win the presidential elections. And well, I can guess Putin's answer on that question also. I would not share my opinion, but it's quite expectable what Putin gonna say. And there are many other topics, by the way, but what is most important, a high-profile Western journalist is interviewing Putin. Oh, this is gonna be a slap in the face of Western ruling class, at least some of them, that are so much into this Russophobia that they're gonna have hysteria, man. They're gonna have a total breakdown after this interview will be aired. Let's see. Anyway, welcome to Russia, welcome to Russia. And not just to Tucker Carlson, by the way. I welcome to Russia everybody who has a good, friendly attitude towards Russia, at least not animosity towards Russia and Russians. Let's continue now, and RT is reporting that US ally is helping to arm Moscow, according to Washington Post, and you may be surprised, but Washington Post is writing about Taiwan, that Taiwanese companies, directly and indirectly, are continuing to do business with Russian companies, and therefore helping Russia in this war against Western ruling class, war that was, by the way, provoked by Western ruling class itself. And well, what you gonna do about this? I do see news time to time in different regions of this world that are involved one way or another to doing business with Russia, with Russian companies, and the Western ruling class is not happy about it, obviously, but it's a free market. These are businesses, and their main goal is to make money. So what you're gonna do now? Act like you are communist and demand full control over the businesses, nationalize everything, or what? That's quite a dilemma, isn't it, that Western ruling class is now, right now. Because they want to act like they are, communists, by the way. Worst examples of communists, because communists, they were different. But it seems like current ruling class of the West wants total control over everything. Everything. And, well, that's dangerous stuff, because they have power. They have power, by the way, still. And when it comes to this particular information, this is important just to highlight that for many businesses worldwide, not just in Taiwan, Russian market is and was important, and one way or another, directly or indirectly, they are trying to maintain their share on the market, and it's not gonna stop. It's not gonna stop, by the way. That's a free market for you. Those people just want to make business. That's it. Artist report here, and well, U.S. House to vote on Israeli-only aid bill, according to Speaker of House of Representatives Mike Johnson. This vote will take place in the next week, and during the vote they will not discuss so-called aid for Kyiv regime from Biden's package, Biden's military aid package, in which 61 billion supposed to be allocated for Kyiv regime. But well, no matter what Mike Johnson has in the plans, or Republicans in House, Biden or Biden's White House, some of his representatives already made statement that they will not support this this step of Republicans in the House, and they will demand Ukrainian aid package also to be discussed simultaneously, as it was proposed initially by Biden. So this story, man, I mean, this story is like entering its like third month now, and I'm kind of surprised. That sides still are negotiating, still are trading with each other, and I'm surprised that military-industrial complex of US, for whatever reason, was not able to force basically Republicans to vote for Biden's administration, because this is last big paycheck for US military-industrial complex from Ukrainian story. Maybe something else is going on and we don't know yet. Maybe that's the case, because I find it difficult to believe that military-industrial complex of the US wants something to be voted on in a House and Republicans refusing. I mean, I cannot believe in this. Now, there may be one or two really independent lawmakers among Republicans and among Democrats. Maybe even that is unlikely, but majority of these lawmakers, of course, they are paid by multinational corporations, including by military-industrial complex, and they are put in the House, in a Congress or Senate, exactly to do whatever they are told to do. So most likely something is going on. Most likely something else is going on, and we just don't know yet. Otherwise, this 60 billion already would be all allocated for Kyiv regime. But anyway, let's continue. Artist report here that during the previous night, US and UK bombed 36 targets in Yemen. So this military campaign of NATO against Yemen continues, and they are trying to deal as much damage to Ansar Allah movement and Houthi rebels as possible, although I don't think it will work. Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates were bombing Yemeni Houthis for almost a decade, and they still achieved not much. And they were bombing, by the way, with almost the similar planes, with almost the similar weapons, bombs and missiles. So I don't know what US and UK wants to achieve, or what is their hope, but they're not going to succeed for sure. The Novosti report here that as a result of recent strikes on Iraq and Syria by US, 16 civilians were killed in Iraq, according to latest news that I see, but most likely this number will grow. And now probably everybody is asking how this Shiite militia groups will respond on these strikes. And yesterday I already reported that one of the US bases next to Koniko gas airfield in Syria was targeted. This morning, early morning, I did saw information that one of their other US bases was targeted with some 9 rockets, unguided rockets. And this is minor attempts to conduct strikes, but I guess in next week or two we will see some significant escalation as a retaliatory strike from the Shiite groups. Let's see. I don't think US bases in the Middle East are any more safer now after strikes on these Shiite militia groups, that's for sure. RIA Novosti's report, by the way, quite interesting and somewhat funny report, that US demands from Turkey money, millions of dollars, for F-35s that Turkey never received. And these millions Turkey owns now US, according to media, or according to US counterparts of Turkey, because they were, they did not send these 6 already paid by Ankara F-35s to Turkey, but they were in hangars, and they were, regular maintenance were conducted on these planes, and therefore checkups to make sure that planes are still in workable conditions. It's 6 years, by the way. Turkey should receive these planes 6 years ago. They did not. And they are demanding money now for planes that they will never deliver, for maintenance of those planes. But for planes themselves, Turkey already paid. And I'm interested what is going to be Turkish answer, by the way, on this. They're going to, they're going to send them in certain direction, I guess. They're not going to receive no money, by the way, from Turkey. I guess because most likely Ankara will never see F-35s in its inventory, because they're not going to refuse from S-400s that they brought from Russia. RT's report here that India and Maldives reach agreement on a troop withdrawal. As you know, Maldives, new government of Maldives, new president is demanding Indian small contingent to be withdrawn from this island nation, and well, they did reach agreement. They did reach agreement, and I guess sometime this year, before May 10, most likely, Indian forces will leave Maldives, and this may count as a somewhat victory for China, diplomatic victory. And of course, China and India, they are competitors, political, economical, geopolitical competitors, somewhat in the region. Both want to have a better positions, and in this particular case, China most likely end up winning, because according to some media reports, this new leader of Maldives, Mohamed Muizu, is a pro-Chinese individual, and that's why he's asking India to remove its forces. And we are not talking about some thousands of military personnel, we are talking about some few dozen, like 80 or 100, like that. Also, by the way, interesting news from Interfax, that according to Prime Minister of Finland, the border between Finland and Russia will continue to be closed indefinitely. Okay, good to know, but yet again, in this case, Moscow can do nothing. It's a decision of Helsinki. They have every right to shut down their borders, and well, okay, I don't care personally. I was never in Finland, and I was never thinking to go to Finland. Why should I? I mean, really. But it's bad for, especially for citizens of Russia and Finland that were living close to border, because they were quite often traveling. Russian citizens were going in Finland and buying some stuff that is cheaper in Finland. Finnish citizens were traveling to Russia and buying stuff that is cheaper in Russia. So it was beneficial for ordinary citizens and for economies also, for both countries. But, well, current government of Finland has different priorities than interests of its own citizens, and that's the way they are acting. Central bank buying spree, driving demand for gold, according to reports. So, well, yet again, gold prices on the rise, demand on the gold on rise, and this is absolutely not surprising, because in the situation when people worldwide are losing trust towards euro, towards dollar, towards financial institutions of the West, and when these processes will inevitably further accelerate, in this situation, of course, many businesses, many central banks, even private citizens are finding more attractive to invest in gold, to save their assets in a gold. Right decision, in my opinion. If I had any savings, I will definitely invest in gold. Why not? Total gold demand hit the highest level on the record last year, and eventually last year 4,899 tons of gold was sold, which is a huge amount, isn't it? Huge amount. And central banks buy more than 1,000 tons from this, and of course majority goes for jewelry, because this gold jewelry stuff, it's a huge, isn't it? Especially in the global south, everywhere, I mean worldwide, but especially in the global south. I never understood this gold jewelry finchiklushki stuff, because I don't know, man. I don't use gold, man. If I had one, I will, if I will receive gift like chain, for example, I will just put somewhere and it will stay there. I may prefer, like, if I want to have something silver, maybe white gold, but not this yellow stuff. But to invest, by the way, it's a great metal, of course. And well, let's continue. RT is reporting that, and this information, I'm sharing this information as additional indicator that, well, investments in the gold definitely has a future, because demand most likely will only increase as we are more and more approaching situation when two economical, financial, banking systems will be formed in the world, Western one and alternative one for the rest of the world. And as we are closing to that point, of course, these alternative sources of savings like gold will only gain popularity, in my opinion, although I'm not a financial expert or expert in these metals, man. I may be mistaken, but that's how I see it anyway. Artists report that European country hardest hit by Houthi blockade have been named, and it's UK. By the way, I was a little surprised to hear this, because I was expecting that Denmark or Netherlands may be most hit, because they have huge, major ports on the Baltics, for entire Europe. But no, it's UK. 12% of UK manufacturers have been affected by shipping disruption in the Red Sea, according to survey of S&P Global. So, well, that's quite serious stuff. UK's economy is already was in bad shape even before this Middle Eastern crisis began, and most likely this year UK's economy will enter a recession, maybe. German economy also, economy of France, all the major economies in Europe are in really difficult situation, let's say this way. Artist report, and this is going to be last news for today's update. Russia's led trade block's de-dollarization almost complete, according to Prime Minister of Russia, Mikhail Mishustin. let's read several sentences here. The share of national currencies in the mutual settlements among the countries of the Eurasian Economic Union has reached 90% and is still growing, Russian Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin revealed on the Friday. Your EA-EU, which is based on the customs union of Russia, Kazakhstan and Belarus, was established in 2015 and was later joined by Armenia and Kyrgyzstan. In 2016, Vietnam became a free trade partner of the EA-EU. The union is designed to ensure the free movement of goods, services, capital and workers among member countries. So, well, of course, Eurasian Economic Union cannot be compared with the European Union, for example, by overall trade between the member states and by combined GDP, but still this is one more indicator that process of de-dollarization is unstoppable. And well, if more than 90% in trade between the countries are now in EA-EU countries are in national currencies, then I guess US dollar lost its worth for at least 100 billion, because well, I guess trade between the Eurasian Economic Union countries definitely are about 100 billion a year, if not more. And yet again, 100 billion is nothing for dollar, obviously, but if this process continues, and it will continue, eventually one step, another, third, fourth, and at some point one small drop may be enough to you know, to cause dollar to lose its position as a main world reserve currency. And that day is coming, undoubtedly. This is it for now. Quite a long video today, but hopefully you will find these updates, this news interesting, and if so, please click that like button, leave some commentary about any topic you like, and share links to my videos or my channel with your friends on any of the platforms that you are active on. And if you think this channel is interesting, informative, useful, and deserves to exist in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support my work with small donations through PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. You can see links under this video in the description box or in the pinned comment. This is it for now. If I may, I will remind you that 9 o'clock this evening I will have a live stream on my YouTube channel, main YouTube channel. So I hope you will join. So until now, or until then, bye and take care. Have a great day.